I never thought food could destroy my life, but it did. I was so addicted to food that I almost checked myself into rehab just to get better. And today I'm going to tell you exactly what happened and how I managed to break free from it after such a long period of time. So growing up, I never had this addiction and this obsession to food. I ate the standard food that my mom and my dad and my grandparents would cook me. I never tracked anything. I never hid what I was eating. I just ate a standard Australian diet with meat and fish and chicken and pastas and fried food and lollies. I just ate and never really thought twice about it. I did this for several years, and what ended up happening for me after I hit the age of 18 and 19 is when I was going to the gym for about a year, I was getting very fit and very strong. Coming off the back of playing football and wanting to do something more physical now for my exercise and something more consistent that I didn't get injured by. In actual fact, I ended up injuring my pec and I tore my pec. And once that happened, I lost my fitness and my physique. And what soon followed after that was a lot of health troubles. I had a huge amount of inflammation in my body. I remember working in a contact center when I tried to type on the keyboard and use the mouse. And after a couple of months of doing that, my hands became so sore that I couldn't do it anymore. And I ended up working in that contact center barely hours. Like, I was meant to be working a full-time shift for the whole entire week. I could barely even do hours in a week because the pain got so severe. From that point on, I ended up getting urticaria, which was an immune disease or disorder that I developed. And if I got into the sun, my skin would break out in a very large rash. And sometimes it'd be in spots and sometimes it'd be across my body. Even if I took too hot of a shower, my skin would break out. My allergies was really severe, was extremely allergic to grass and pollen, and it got to the point for me where I wasn't able to step outside anymore. And this just slowly happened over a period of time. My health declined more and more and more. And I was aged 20 at that time, and I hadn't felt worse in my whole entire life up until that point. And I would get sick very regularly. These are just some of the things. What I did was I listened to a Tony Robbins speaker tape. In that speaker tape, it talked about green drinks and it talked about alkalizing and remineralizing your body. I listened to that speaker tape very intently, and a light bulb went off for me, pretty much stating that you could heal your body through the food that you were having. And up until that point, like I said, I never even thought about the food that I was putting into my body, especially at that time. But it clicked for me. And from that point on, I really started to delve into plant-based eating and fasting and juice fasting and being on a raw vegan diet. So I'm gaining all this knowledge and this understanding, and I'm getting very excited about this because up until that point, there was nothing, no medication, no advice from people around me, from my parents, that there's nothing that was changing how I was feeling, and you could see it. So what I did is I took the next best action and I wanted to apply some of these things and these teachings in my life. So I started, fasting, and I started on the raw food journey. What happened for me was after a couple of days, of doing this when I started is the pendulum would swing the other way and I would binge and eat on fast food. And I would sit there and think that I know, I can feel it in my spirit, and I know that I can eat healthier, and that is going to be my way forward to heal my body. I didn't know specifically what I was going to do. I just knew I had to surrender to that route and take action. And I wasn't able to at the start. So what happened continually is that I would come up with another plan. I would get some juices together and some salad recipes and very basic vegetables and fruit. And I would stick to that. And I would say, this is going to be my routine, and have it all planned out. What would happen constantly is I would get a couple of days. The most I got was 6-7 days. And then and sometimes not even within the day, I would then fall back. And when I fell back, and that obsession, that thinking of food and that level of control would kick in, I would become powerless. And I would binge on Macca's, McDonald's, that is, KFC, Hungry Jack's, bakeries. I would go to like the most sugary bakeries. I'd go to Krispy Kreme, and I would just gorge myself. One, because I felt so much guilt and shame about knowing that this is a solution, not being able to bring myself and have the power to do it. And this continued. This got so bad. So in that first year, I tried real hard. I did more fasting. I went into water fasting. The less control that I felt, the more out of control my solutions and my situation became. So an example of this was I went to a meditation retreat, a silent one, for 10 days. And I water fasted for most of that time because, again, it was so out of control that I did the most extreme thing to start back on the health path and back to what that initial commitment was about pursuing my health and healing my body. And then what ended up happening is on that retreat is, one, I wasn't meant to be fasting. So the guides and my mentor that was there questioned me, like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And I said to him that, I just want to. And he said, well, that's not what we teach here. So for the rest of that meditation retreat, I faked eating food, fruits and these types of things, and then would put them in my pocket and then continue on. Just, again, this level of obsession and willfulness, self-will, mind you, to try and break away how I'd been feeling. And what happened is, on the 7th day, so this was 10 days all up that I'd water fasted, 3 days before, 7 days, I couldn't take it anymore. I could barely sleep. I was thinking about food so much. And the detox got so intense from the water fast with no support that I ended up breaking the fast very, very dangerously, extremely dangerously. I went down to the lunchtime area and I gorged myself of the soup and the food and the curries and the rice that they had there. And then I wanted to pass out. I felt completely comatose from that. And I'm so lucky that nothing major happened for my health, especially after water fasting for 10 days and then just engulfing food. I could have really screwed my body up in a massive way. So that's one example. From that, I ended up getting my brother and his ex at the time to pick me up. I went back to my mum's place. I was upstairs in this dark, confined area where I would play games for the next week and I would binge on food. That pattern happened for 3 years. And I'm not going to go into all the detail, but when I say it got worse, it got so much worse. I isolated from my family completely. The internal conflict and the misery that I felt on a daily basis after I tried to do this and failed once again was absolutely destroying me. My health got so much worse. And it got to a crossroad where it was the second time I actually asked for help. The first time I did, and I tried something, and I tried so many things to try and break this addiction and just be healthier. Like be so much healthier so I can start to heal my body. And I couldn't do it for 3 years. So this first round of help of this person that I was seeing, it wasn't sustainable. And the main reason that it wasn't sustainable was my inability to surrender and let go of control. Because the worse that it got, the more I wanted to control it, the more out of control it got. And that's in essence addiction. When you cross that line of wanting to control something so bad, it becomes out of control, and that your solutions to the problems become worse, which is what was happening to me. Once you cross that line, you're not able to go back over. And I crossed that line. I'd crossed that line years before. And I was 23 at that time, and I finally asked for help. And I asked for help for someone that experienced what it was like to be addicted to food, those feelings, that day-to-day of promising myself and telling my family that I'm doing this, and then not even making it sometimes within the day, and reverting back to the binging, the obsession, the need for food. And I spoke with this man who his name is Dan. I'm beyond grateful to him because he heard me out. He listened to me, and he shared what was going on for him, what had gone on for him. And through one person sharing with another their addiction, I felt like I wasn't alone. And I'd felt alone for 3-4 years prior to that. From that point on, he shared with me some simple techniques and strategies that I could use. One being not restricting my calories. Another being, yes, I know I want to be raw vegan and I want to get into fasting before I even think about that, to commit to becoming vegan. Instead of buying fast food all the time, make my foods at home. Small steps. He gave me a recipe book and so much information to go off, and a structure and a foundation to build upon. Another thing that's very important to mention is my connection with God and what I decided to build from that point on. That closeness, that relationship. Because in order for me to let go, I had to give that control to someone else. That letting go process, that had to be let go to someone. And I choose to call that God, my God of my own understanding, and Jesus. You can call it whatever, but some type of higher power, something else, especially if you're struggling with addiction, to surrender that to. And so I did that. Now, in the first week that I did that, it was on the second day that I went into work. There were Krispy Kreme donuts that were bought. And this was almost torture to me, because the amount of times that I went to Krispy Kreme and binge, oh my goodness, I can't even count them. They were bought and they were provided at work. And I remember going out back. I was working in the bank at the time, and I remember going out back, seeing them on the table, and I could feel the obsession. It wasn't an obsession at the time, but I could feel the thinking start to change again. That thinking that caused a ripple effect to be a constant thought and an obsession that developed that I wasn't able to break. And those thoughts came up, and I did something in that moment that was really able to change the course of me being consistent and not binging. And that was to think of someone else in that moment and surrender. And so I was asking for God's help in that moment. And funnily enough, someone called me, a mate of mine who really needed help at the time. And I talked to him. And just the fact of doing that, it was able to break that cycle for me. And that's the first time I'd ever experienced that. Up until that point, that had never happened. I would go, like I said, a day or 7 days, and I would be ripped right back into binging again and crying and feeling worthless and being full of guilt and shame and stuffing my face with food. So these things that I was taught started for me to build a foundation, and I practiced these things daily and regularly. And so I was getting more connected with God. I was praying, I was meditating. I was taking the pressure off with my food and not being as strict and making food at home. And I did this, and over a course of time, I ended up being very consistent. And I was able to go from vegan to raw vegan. And I was able to fast, and I was able to do all these things that I wanted to do and to get all the health benefits that I've received today. It all started with that moment back then and that surrender, that level of surrender. And today, I'm 6 years clean and free from binging. I haven't binged once since that day back in the 20th of July, way back then, 2019. Yep, 2019. That hasn't happened, and I'm extremely grateful for that. So if you want to learn more, reach out to me. I'll have also a link down below that'll explain a quick video of juice fasting and how you juice fast. Because in order to correct your health, especially coming from an addiction background, you need to get that handled first, in my experience. And then I was able to go on to actually pursuing my health more than I ever have before. So I've got that link down below. Click there, watch the video, reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help. And all the best with your journey with addiction. Thank you.